SportsCenter.
That it is. We are less than 2 hours away from the NFL trade deadline. The clock is ticking down, and we have you covered from all angles. Christine Williamson here with Louis Riddick, Jeff Saturday, who will break it down in a minute. But Matt Berry, you are with the man of the hour,
yes.
Adam Schefter, who has been working the phones literally all day.
Adam Schefter, a very busy day for him. Christine, thank you. Welcome into SportsCenter. A couple of moves just happened within the last hour. Adam, what can you tell us?
Well, I think the big move today so far has been the Washington Commanders involved in a big trade with the New Orleans Saints for four-time Pro Bowl cornerback Marshon Lattimore, a trade that involved a number of draft picks. The Commanders are in a position that a lot of people didn't think that they would be in. You see everything that they give up there. They get back a third, a fourth, and sixth-round picks for Marshon Lattimore. The Commanders get Lattimore and a fifth, so a complicated deal. But the Commanders felt like they needed to upgrade their secondary. He was the most talented cornerback out there. There were a number of teams that were interested in Marshon Lattimore, but Washington, in first place in the NFC East, decided to step up and go on. The other trade within the last hour, the New York Jets trading Mike Williams to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a fifth-round draft pick. Everybody knew that Pittsburgh had been interested in a wide receiver. And if we go back to last summer, Mike Williams was scheduled to visit Pittsburgh, never made it there because he wound up signing with the Jets. And now the Jets, who traded for Davante Adams, send Williams to Pittsburgh for a fifth-round pick. And the Steelers have been looking for a receiver for weeks now. A couple of weeks back, they were making progress on a deal with Jacksonville for Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk then fractures his collarbone. He's out for the year. The Steelers have to go on. They wind up with Mike Williams. So the Commanders get Marshon Lattimore. The Jets trade Mike Williams to the Steelers, and we've had a whole host of moves today, including the Lions making a big move for a pass rusher.
Yeah, they got that done early this morning. When you look now, about under 2 hours to the trade deadline, are there some other candidates out there that we're going to watch for the next 2 hours that might make a move prior to the deadline?
Well, we mentioned Za'Darius Smith, the Browns defensive end, being traded to the Detroit Lions in a pick swap. And again, I think coming into today, we had a situation where the teams to watch were the Lions for a pass rusher, the Steelers for a wide receiver.
Check.
And the Commanders for a cornerback, really. So that's all happened. There's not any more obvious, glaring spaces that you say, this is a trade we're expecting. Are we still going to get another move or two by the deadline? I think it's certainly possible. There are teams having conversations right now. I'll tell you one move that's not going to happen. DK Metcalf is not being traded from Seattle.
Yeah, his name had bantered about a little bit.
Not happening.
Since week 7 had the injury. Another interesting team, the Dallas Cowboys, struggling another season, 3-5. We know Dak Prescott's likely going to be moved to the IR, that according to Jerry Jones. They went and made a move at receiver. Give us the prospects of Dallas here in the next 2 hours.
You touched on the big story and the big headline of the day in Dallas, that Jerry Jones saying it's likely that they're going to place Dak Prescott on injured reserve. Because if Dak Prescott goes on IR, he's out a minimum of 4 games.
That's right.
And here's a team that's fighting to keep alive its season. If you take Dak off the field for 4 games, I know Cooper Rush is 5-1 as a starter, but there's a reason that Dak is the highest paid player in the National Football League, and you're taking him off the team potentially for at least 4 games. So, yes, they traded for Jonathan Mingo, a receiver who had fallen out of favor in Carolina, a former second-round draft pick, and Dallas gave up a 4th-round pick to get back Mingo and a 7th. But Mingo is not somebody who's going to come in here and I believe turn around this roster. There are teams that looked at Mingo. They liked him as a receiver. He's had some talent, hasn't lived up to it in Dallas. Dallas gave up essentially what some other teams have given up for wide receivers. The Chiefs gave up a conditional 5th-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. The Buffalo Bills traded for Amari Cooper. The Ravens got Deontay Johnson for a 5-6 pick flop. And today the Dallas Cowboys traded a 4th for Mingo and a 7. So there's a lot there, but they really like the player, and he's got 2 years left on his rookie contract, so he comes in at a valuable price.
But when you use those comps, the 4th-round picks, relative to some one of those other teams got, and they bring in Mingo, did they overspend? Who knows? They're going to do anything they can to stay in the conversation, as will Adam throughout the day. Adam, thank you. Over to Christine.
All right, let's bring in our guys, Louis Riddick and Jeff Saturday, for this conversation a little bit. So Dallas is done after acquiring Mingo. Now in Dak's absence, right? How do you think of the fact that Jerry Jones and the Cowboys decided to not do anything or address any other roster issues that they have there in Dallas?
Look, there's too many roster issues for them to address at the trade deadline that would make a meaningful impact anyway. This isn't just about this year for Dallas.
Right.
This is about the future as well. They're not trying to get a certain player that they think is going to put them over the top because they have too many needs to put them over the top. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, this is about the long haul. This is about the next 1 or 2 years. Dallas is not in tear-down mode, nor should they be. You don't pay your quarterback $60 million plus to then turn around and tear it down. You don't pay your wide receiver $30 million plus to then go ahead and tear it down. And Micah Parsons is going to be a Dallas Cowboy. They're trying to build this football team and trying to incrementally improve it, although people associate the trade deadline with you making that one move that's going to put you over the top.
Right.
That's not Dallas's situation, and that doesn't mean that they shouldn't try and do anything like they did. This is a smart move. We'll see whether or not it pans out. I mean, a fourth is probably high for John Mingo relative to what other people paid for their wide receivers, but we'll see how this goes down the road because this year's done for them.
For sure.
It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The fourth-round pick is high. You're hoping in a year or two he becomes the two besides CeeDee Lamb and Dak's back in action. Everything's kind of going. You're kind of getting back on track. This team was doomed from the way Jerry handled the offseason this year. With no run game, no ability to stop the run, they gave Dak and CD and that offense no opportunity to make plays. Again, their defense gets exposed because they can't run the ball and keep the defense off the field. I agree 100% with Louis here. The mistakes were made in last year's offseason. They're trying to cover this up. I would not have given a fourth for Mingo. Maybe he makes me look bad in next year or in 2 years. But for whatever it is, they're trying to like Louis says, they're trying to figure this thing out. I'm surprised though, whether it's Zach Martin or Diggs or one of those guys, or even Lawrence. They didn't try to go, get some picks for those guys, knowing that this year, to Lewis's point, is done.
One guy that can kind of really, I don't want to say take out one guy, but let's just say we can match him up with the opposing team's best guy. They didn't have that. Just look at their tape. Just look at a rip of their plus 20-yard completions they've given up this year. It's been everybody. Every team that's going against them said, you know what, we'll let you have some St. Brazil, we'll let you have some St. Juice, we'll take care of all of you. Now Lattimore will be like, look, I'll tell you, Dan Quinn's going to go, you take that one, we'll figure out the other 10. And that's what he's done his entire career. Smart move for them.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think this could be a very underrated until we get to the playoff push. To Lewis's point, when you talk about the defensive line that Washington has and the Commanders can put, this fits Dan Quinn, right? Play kind of ball hawkish kind of guy, put him up, man him up, let him go challenge their one receiver or whoever you decide to match him up with that week, and give Dan Quinn some flexibility on that defensive side. I think it's monumental. You see how their offense has progressed. They're going to be in some track meets. They need some help on the back end of that defense to solidify them to be true NFC contenders. I liken this to the DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's probably going to go under the radar a bit until he shows what he's really capable of doing.
Okay, let's talk about one more guy. The Steelers followed the AFC trend of trading for a receiver after landing Mike Williams. How do you make of this offense shaped around Russell Wilson now?
Well, see, now, when you build wide receiver rooms, you kind of build them like a basketball team. So you want guys who kind of have complementary skill sets. So now you've got George Pickens, who's kind of an inside-outside dude who can do a little bit of the short intermediate passing game and the vertical game. Mike Williams is a vertical outside lane guy, an X-wide receiver, a guy who does exactly what you're seeing on your screen.
Yeah.
They've got Calvin Austin III to play the slot. So now they've got guys who kind of mix and match with one another. And if you're Russell, you're going perfect.
Yeah.
Now we can get rolling. Along with Najee running the ball the way he's running it,
Right.
they may be able to do some things now. You top it off with this defense. It's playing lights out. Mike Tomlin may just be sitting there going, "Don't ever count me out."
Yeah.
Yeah. And think about, I think about this. I'm not trying to compare Mike Williams and DK Metcalf, but think about Russell in Seattle. That type of guy, like exactly what Lou's saying. Man, you put that guy out there. Now you have Pickens who can do either. You got Van Jefferson who can work himself in there. You can get in that personnel groups that makes teams kind of match up. It can help your run game, but also that one-on-one out there, that 50-50 ball where you're putting up. To Lou's point, Tomlin, man, he has slowly put this thing together. Quietly has handled the quarterback position extremely well, and the way they pushed the ball down the field with Russell Wilson these last couple of weeks, the future looks bright for the Steelers.
Yeah, don't question Mike Tomlin. He knows what he's doing. Also, Aaron Rodgers had great things to say on the McAfee show about Mike Williams as a locker room guy, so hopefully he's able to make an impact. Hail to the Chiefs. Kansas City remained perfect with another win on Monday Night Football. It was vintage Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Kelce tied the Chiefs' single-game record with 14 receptions, a mark set by Tony Gonzalez in 2005. He also tied the record for receptions in Monday Night Football history. In just his second game with the Chiefs, DeAndre Hopkins showed why he's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Hopkins hauled in 2 touchdown grabs, both coming in the red zone. He set his season highs in receptions and yards. And the Chiefs signal caller had to be helped off the field in the fourth quarter, but returned to lead the Chiefs' next touchdown drive. Mahomes had a season best completion percentage and threw for 3 touchdowns. But it was Kareem Hunt who iced the game for the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime. Hunt rushed for 90 yards and a touchdown in the second half and overtime after he had just 16 yards in the first half. Jeff Saturday is back with us. Okay, so Jeff, the Chiefs' offensive struggles, they've been the lone outlier for their perfect start. What did this win show you in terms of how close that unit is to reaching their potential?
How good is Brett Veach and Andy Reid in putting players in? Let's think about this. D-Hop's been there 2 weeks. He basically took over third down last night. I mean, he basically dominated third down. I know he had the one big play early where he throws into triple coverage and he makes a snag. He has 2 touchdowns. And then who finishes the game for the Chiefs? Kareem Hunt. Neither were on the roster. You know what I mean? Like what are we talking about? We're talking about the way they bring guys into the locker room and the way this team seamlessly brings people together. Their offense, this defense had led this football team to an undefeated start, and this offense showed you last night, if it becomes a track meet, don't count them out. They got enough players, enough firepower to make this thing happen. It was a special showing last night.
Yeah, those guys look like they've been with this team for a long time. Okay, so with 9 games left, what stands as the Chiefs' biggest obstacle to enter the playoffs with an unblemished record?
That's a great question. I'm going to say the Bills in Week 11, and here's why. If the last 5 games, the Bills are 3-2. The issue is they've won all the regular season games, and then the Chiefs have won all the playoff games. So, you know, it's 3-2, but the Bills aren't afraid of this team. I hear people talk about the Bengals being the same type of mentality. The Bills aren't scared to match up with this football team. It's can they finish it, and then what does it look like in the playoffs? But to go undefeated, we know is difficult in the NFL. And then as the season progresses, let's say they do beat the Bills. Andy Reid has been known to sit his guys week 17, week 18. If this thing is locked up and they have the head-to-head over the Bills, they may decide they can pump the brakes if the Ravens don't chase them for that 1 seed. I see going undefeated very improbable. In fact, I would say the 3-peat is probably more probable than an undefeated season. So we'll put it that way. But I think the Bills, to me, is the one you would circle.
Okay, I just want to ask you a quick question. It might seem weird, but doesn't it work better in the Chiefs' favor if they want a 3-peat for them to get a loss during the regular season?
See, I like what you're thinking. I'm thinking the same thing, right? I mean, we saw what the Patriots did. Drive all the way down, undefeated, go into the Super Bowl and not close it out. You know, if I'm Andy Reid, I will trade the regular season for a 3-peat. At least you have some bait, right? It's not like, hey, we can be an undefeated team. We can go, hey, we can 3-peat. I'll take that 3-peat all day and twice on Sunday.